Story time about the day my husband attacked me and put me in the hospital. My husband and I had been married for 7 years. 3 years into the marriage, he started sleeping on the couch. We would constantly fight back then because of several things. Number 1, I knew he was cheating on me, but he would never admit to it. Number 2, I wanted to have children, but he didn't want to at the time. Number 3, he never wanted to spend time with me and always prioritized his friends. And this was around the time that he started getting physically violent. Because we'd already been married for a few years at that point, I never saw him as a violent person. It all started by him shoving me one time during an argument. But he shoved me so hard I fell to the ground and ended up bruising my chin. And even though this was a big problem between me and him, it became an even bigger problem between me and my family. As soon as my parents saw the bruise, they started accusing him of beating me. And of course, my first instinct was to defend my husband. My parents begged me to stay with them and I didn't. I went back to my husband and demanded an apology, but he wouldn't even look me in the face. He told me he basically did not care. Once he started sleeping on the couch, it was just like we were roommates. We stayed like this for years. Anytime we got into an argument, he would just look for something to throw at me. One day he threw a jewelry box at me and I ended up in the ER. And of course, the hospital thought it was my husband. So I lied and said that I tripped. And unfortunately, I went straight back to my husband. After years of him pushing me, shoving me, throwing things at me, and even slapping me, I became so numb to it. It would get me really angry and upset at the moment, but as soon as he would apologize, we would just go back to normal. But even our normal wasn't normal. We didn't sleep in the same bed. He was never really home, and when he was always playing video games. This was also around the time that he lost his job, so for 5 years, I was basically the breadwinner. He told me he didn't want to get a job and he wanted to play video games. I didn't tell him anything because I didn't want it to turn into a fight, but I was angry at the thought that I had to now support him. But like I said, my parents did not like him at all. They knew something was up because I always had some sort of bruise. My parents made it a habit of showing up unannounced to our house. I was actually really grateful to my parents. This didn't upset me at all. But my husband, on the other hand, hated my parents. One day he asked me, why do they even care about you so much? You're not that important. Around a year ago, I started feeling really sick all the time. At the time, I didn't know why. One day, I walk into the kitchen and see my husband holding eye drops in his hand, but he quickly put it away. I asked him why he was holding that, and he said nothing, mind your own business. So I did. A few months later, I'm having a conversation with a coworker, and he told me a story about somebody using eye drops on someone else to make them sick. This is when it all clicked. I had all these weird stomach issues, and I never realized that it was him putting eye drops in my coffee. This is when I decided to file for divorce. Instead of filing for divorce and leaving him, I went home and told him that I was going to get a divorce. He grabbed a hammer and started chasing me. I locked myself in the bathroom. When I saw him grab the hammer, I started instantly running. I ran straight to the bathroom and locked myself. The good thing is that he would never damage this house because he does love it, so he didn't swing at the door. I stayed in the bathroom for an hour explaining to him why I wanted to get a divorce. After the 2 hours, I thought he had calmed down. He basically told me that he would give me the divorce with no problem. But let me remind you, I was the breadwinner and he had no job. He was completely dependent on me. But as soon as I opened the door, he pushed in and started hitting me. Unfortunately, I didn't tell anyone in my family what my plan was. Suddenly, I wake up and I realize I'm on the ground. 4 hours had passed. I get up and look at myself in the mirror and my face was completely swollen. I walk into the living room and my husband was there playing video games, just like he did every day all day. As soon as he sees me, he says, "You better go wash your face." Instead, I grabbed my things and ran out. He didn't even bother chasing me. I called my parents on the way to the hospital and they met me there. Luckily, there was no major damage. My parents helped me file a police report. And when the police showed up to see my husband, he had cleaned the bathroom. Guess what he told them? That he was the one that wanted to divorce me because I was crazy and that I had made up the whole attack. He says that I must have hit myself in the face. That's when the cops asked him, "How do you know that she was hit in the face?" Gotcha. He said he had assumed that I was being hit in the face. My brothers and parents went over and kicked him out. I sold the place and bought a house down the street from my parents. I am now so much happier. I feel like I'm aging backwards from not being around him. The constant feel and nervousness I felt around him took a toll on me, and I just hadn't realized it. To this day, he says he did nothing, and the cops have done nothing against him. I need proof, so what should I do?
After 18 years of marriage, I just found out that my children are not mine. My wife, Kelly, and I have known each other for over 20 years, and I have been married to her for 18. We have 17-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. And I found out that they aren't mine 2 days ago. My kids got those ancestry tests for the family, and we found out that I am not their father. Kelly and I met each other as coworkers at a job right out of college. We both were very ambitious, so after working for a couple of years, we decided to start our own business. We fell in love, and a year after starting our business, we got married. A couple of months into our marriage, we had a massive fight over the direction we wanted to take our business in, and I left our home. She came to me a couple of weeks later, and we compromised. We've been inseparable ever since. Kelly got pregnant around that time. We've been through thick and thin. Our business has been through several hardships, but we weathered them together. We were always there for each other. We could always depend on one another, and I loved her so much. She was a part of me, and I couldn't imagine a life without her. I trusted her absolutely until this happened. Kelly has been crying and apologizing constantly. She told me that during the time we had that fight at the start of our marriage, she got drunk one night and slept with a random guy, and that she has not cheated on me since. The betrayal has left me disoriented. I told Kelly I needed some time to process this, and I'm currently staying at a hotel. I don't know what I'm even doing anymore. The last 2 days have been a blur. I feel like a zombie, completely unable to feel or process anything. I don't intend to abandon my kids. I might not be their father, but I'm still their dad and I love them dearly. My thoughts are a mess, so I'm writing this down to help me process. Kelly has always been a great wife and an excellent business partner. I don't know if I'll be able to look at her the same again or if I'll be the same person. I don't know how to move forward or if I even can.
My dad took me out of school when I was 7 and said he wanted to homeschool me. I never understood why, to be honest. I always did good in school. But one thing I noticed was we never actually did any schoolwork. You see, I slept a lot during the day, cause my dad would keep me up most of the night to play hide and seek. I never got to seek. It was my job to hide and hide good, as my dad would say. So every night I'd hide, and my dad would try and find me. I had this spot in my closet that even my dad didn't know about. It was at the very back corner, and it was a door that led into a crawl space. I'd taken an electric lantern, some blankets, a little cooler of food, a couple comic books, and my Game Boy to keep myself busy while we played. He never found me, but it was always funny listening to him try. He'd growl and snarl like he was trying to scare me, but I just had to stay quiet, as Daddy said if I lost we wouldn't be able to play anymore. So last night my aunt and uncle, Daddy's brother, came over for dinner. When it was over and we were sitting around talking, I mentioned about playing hide and seek. My daddy's face turned white, and my uncle gave me a weird look. "What do you mean you're playing hide and seek tonight?" my uncle asked. "Every night Daddy and I play hide and seek. But he's really bad at it as he never finds me," I replied. "Go get your pajamas on, Jay," my dad said as the tone in his voice changed as I left the dining room. Nobody was saying anything. But when I got to my room, I could hear my dad and uncle talking angrily to each other. The last thing I heard was the door slam and my dad's stomping feet coming up the stairs. "Did Uncle Tom and Aunt Linda leave?" I asked. "Yeah, they had to get on the road," my dad answered, giving me a long hug. "Is it time to play, Dad?" I asked as I finished getting my pajamas on. "A few minutes. There's something I want to talk to you about," he replied as he sat on my bed. "This will probably be the last time we play. As Uncle Tom wants you to come stay with him and Linda for a while," he said as tears welled up in his eyes. I didn't understand, but I did remember before Mommy was killed in the woods by that murderer, that she and Daddy had talked about me living with Uncle Tom, so I didn't argue, I just hugged my dad. So if this was going to be our last game for a little while, then I was for sure not getting caught. My dad left the room and went down into the basement where he always started. I could hear him counting as he walked away. 12, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, his voice trailed off. He always gave me to 100 to hide. I climbed into my closet and pushed the crawlspace door in, and wriggled through the wall into the damp, dark space. The smell of dust and dirt filled my nose as I turned the electric lantern on. Turning back around, I pushed the little door back on. I'd just finished reading the new Incredible Hulk when I heard my dad come in the bedroom. Turning off the lantern, I heard him go into my closet, shifting the hangers on the rod. He made noises like a big dog, sniffing and growling. It was really hard for me not to laugh, as I sat there in the pitch black, waiting for him to leave so I could get back to reading. There was a loud bang from outside as I heard my Uncle Tom yell my name. "Jay, stay where you are and don't come out," he yelled into the house. I heard my dad run from my room and head towards the stairs. "Mark, you don't need to do this, we can fix it. Look at Linda. She doesn't even change anymore." I didn't know what my uncle was talking about, but then loud bangs rang through my house like fireworks going off. It was morning by the time I pulled the door off the crawlspace and got out into my room. The house was dead quiet as I went to the washroom and cleaned myself up. When I went downstairs to get some breakfast, the house was empty. There was a note on the table from my dad. "Jay, you're growing up to be such a strong boy. I need you to be even stronger now. And go and live with Uncle Tom for a little while. I love you, son, and I'm sorry this has to happen." Dad, at the bottom was Uncle Tom's phone number. I cried. I mean, of course I did. My dad just left me to my aunt and uncle with no explanation. When I looked up, Tom was standing there with his rifle slung over his shoulder. "Hurry up and finish your breakfast, buddy. We got to go get rid of an old wolf that I killed last night." We spent the rest of the day digging a hole and throwing in chopped up pieces of the wolf. It was weird, but I thought I seen my dad's wedding ring on the ground, but it got knocked into the hole. When Tom picked up one of the wolf's front paws, "Uncle Tom, when can I see my dad again?" I asked, trying to hold back tears. "I'm not sure, Jay, and that's the truth. Hopefully someday soon we'll see," Tom replied as we started filling in the hole. I'm not gonna lie, going back to school was great after being out for a year, and Tom and Linda took great care of me. But lately Tom has been sleeping out in the barn, and every time he does his pretend wolf howls keep me up really late at night. Heard him and Linda talking about how it may be time to play hide and seek again.
Today I fucked up by telling my parents about my inheritance. My 36-year-old sister died 6 months ago from a heart condition. She practically raised me, so it's been pretty difficult to deal with. I'm in my final year of university and I've held every single class this semester. She'd be disappointed, but it is what it is. My sister never married and never had children. I lived with her near campus. She ran her successful side business, and I got to help her out occasionally as a paid intern. She worked a lot, but not to support us. She wanted to retire by the time she was 40. She would have been done in 4 years, and her heart had to fail her first. When she died, her attorney read her will to me. She left everything to me. She had an extremely large amount of money put away for her retirement in side accounts for various activities for her retirement. I was unaware, but she had made several real estate investments so that she could continue living a comfy lifestyle once she retired. She left her 2006 Subaru to me and willed her current house to me as well. She had explained that she wanted to use this house for college housing eventually. This was all extremely overwhelming to hear. She left nothing to my parents, but as they didn't know that she had assets, they willingly paid for the funeral and any other associated costs. My sister was no contact with our parents, and I'm very low contact. We are their only 2 children. At the funeral, my parents asked me how I was going to continue going to college without her money. They thought she paid for them. Psych, I have student debt. I told them that I'd continue to take out loans. They asked me about my living arrangements and I shrugged. At the time, I didn't know all the details anyway. Well, 2 weeks ago, I found out that my parents tried to sell my sister's house while I was still living there. They brought a realtor and toured the home and everything. It was all on the camera set up in the home. When I called them and informed them that I'd be calling the police, they explained the situation. I told them that it's my home and it was willed to me. They couldn't sell it. They were confused heavily. I told them to meet me at my attorney's at a set time. My attorney explained the will to my parents. My mother went white as a sheet and my father was grumbling about suing me for his rightful money plus the cost of the funeral. My mother began ugly sobbing, telling the attorney he was wrong. Her daughter would not leave the house to someone like me. The attorney cut the meeting short and now we're preparing for an inevitable lawsuit coming my way.
One thing I love about my man is that he will talk to nobody. Like, he's so introverted. If he does not know you, he will not talk to you. Even when he knew me and our friend group, like, we never really, like, said hi to each other, but, like, we were in the same friend group, and he would see me out multiple times. I'd be sitting right next to him, and he was deadass just be like this. And I'd be like, damn, you're kind of mean, but I like it. And we were at this party the other day, and a lot of times, you know, it's our friend, but it's more his friend. And a lot of times he'll go without me sometimes because he lives like down the street from us and I'll be tired. I don't want to go. But this guy always has like a lot of girls over usually, but that doesn't matter. And so I go over the other day with them and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, you know, I see all these girls. One of the girls kind of talked to me. She's like, oh, like, how do you know blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I know him through this, but mostly like through my boyfriend. And she's like, oh, that's your boyfriend? She goes, I saw him at the studio the other day and he does not fucking talk. Like, I don't even know what his voice sounds like. She goes, the whole time everyone was talking to each other and he was sitting there like this. And I'm like, I love that. And she goes, yeah, it's kind of creepy though. And I was like, no, I love it. She goes, all I heard him say was, bye guys. I'm like, yes. That is why I'm like, man, you can go out and do whatever you want. And now that we're dating, it's like he only sits, I'll talk to his guys, whatever. And then he'll just always talk to me. And I'm like, you know, I have had men or just people in the past that are always just like talking to other people the whole time and not me. You know, he will socialize and then I'll socialize, but it's never a worry, you know? And then girls will think he's mean because he don't talk. And I love that shit.
Storytime about the client who asked me to do her entire service for free. This client just so happens to be the first client that I've ever found on TikTok. Not long after I started making makeup artist story times, I had a few people reach out to me and ask if I would do their makeup. More specifically, if they could schedule an appointment to have their makeup done. We're gonna call this one in particular client Karen, and you'll see why in a second. Karen DM'd my Instagram account saying that she was a TikTok follower and that she had been trying to get a hold of me to schedule an appointment for her daughter. Her daughter was a senior in high school about to attend her senior prom. She told me that her daughter told her that she had been following me on TikTok since the beginning of my Makeup Artist Storytime series. She explained that she was a huge fan and that it would be great if there was any way that I would be able to do her daughter's senior prom makeup. I started by first asking her if she had a specific date or time in mind. Karen gave me all the details of her daughter's prom, and then I realized that she lives halfway across the country. That's when I told Karen that I was extremely appreciative for the opportunity, but there is no way that I would be able to fly halfway across the country. Karen was very understanding and thanked me for my time, but that's not where the story ends. A couple of weeks later, I hear back from Karen in my Instagram DMs. It said something along the lines of, hello, my daughter's senior prom is coming up and we would love for you to be able to do her makeup. Followed by the exact same date, time, and location that she had given me just a couple weeks ago. I was a little confused at first because our first conversation was literally saved right above this one. I responded back and told her again that I would not be able to make the event. I apologized for any inconvenience and I thanked her for the opportunity yet again. But of course, Karen was not going to take no for an answer. Karen started DMing me repeatedly, basically rephrasing her initial question in multiple different ways, and then I finally decided just to give her what she was asking for. I told her that I would be able to make the event if she was able to pay for a round-trip airfare, at least one night of a hotel stay, and pay for my services. Surprisingly, Karen actually agreed to this plan. Karen gave me a budget of $5,000, saying that should cover my round-trip ticket, a hotel stay, and all of my services and products. To be completely honest, I really didn't think that this plan was going to go through, but I decided to play along anyway because it would be great to be able to meet some of my followers. As the date for her daughter's prom grew closer, I decided to reach back out to Karen and make sure that everything was still okay. Previously, we had agreed on her paying me the $5,000 a couple of days before my departure. When I reached back out to Karen, she informed me that she thought $5,000 was just a little bit too much. I told her I would be willing to negotiate the price, but it would still have to cover the original terms of the agreement. Karen then told me that she would gladly give me her permission to use her daughter's face in a video if I would do the makeup and travel for free. I guess this is just a reminder that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And yet another timeless Karen story. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported me on TikTok, and don't be a Karen.
November last year, I gave birth to our first baby. It's the first in my family and the sixth in my husband's family. It's important to say that all 6 kids are boys, and my mother-in-law is in some sick, crazy girl phase. Ever since we made the announcement, my mother-in-law convinced herself that I was pregnant with a girl. I told her that once we knew the gender, she would be the first person to know. Lo and behold, it was a boy. We told my mother-in-law we were having a boy, but she was still convinced it was a girl. She told the whole side of the family that it was a girl, and I corrected her, but she told them I was just annoyed because I wanted a boy first. I wanted a healthy baby. I didn't give a damn about the sex. She told them that we are naming the girl after her mom, which we will never do because my hubby hates his grandma. When the baby shower gift started to come, I noticed a lot of things that wasn't in the register, like embroidered things with the grandma's name on it. Well, the baby was born, and imagine the surprise, it was a boy, just like we have been telling everyone. The problem, for them at least, is that now the baby has plenty of girl clothes that we plan on putting on our son, specifically for his family video calls and for pictures with them. After Saturday, my mother-in-law gave us a call and started screaming because we were making the elders uncomfortable for not sticking to a masculine color scheme for the baby's clothes. She said we have to stop being childish. She just thought my belly shape was more like a girl than for a boy. I told my mother-in-law that we will not be changing the baby's clothes and just to wait until the dresses start fitting. He will look adorable.